into the Sports Shuffle. I am Flying Ryan Gokers along with
Tampa Motormouth Joel Verlin, who is
yeah.
yeah,
Normally we do a little preview and intro to what happened. So
but
because it's
we
Joel and because he's a fan of the Bucks, I'm just going to say the score and let him talk. Falcons
yeah.
29, Bucks 28. Go.
All right. First off, you've got Mike Evans visibly effing pissed, going to
Understandably
third and
so.
28. Third and
It's third and
28.
28. Yeah.
28. And my first thought was, I wonder if this speeds up his retirement. Because you had some people wondering with the injury, does that mean he's going to want to come back next year? But after dealing with this defense or lack thereof, I'm trying not to say it, but
You're trying to do what
oh
Todd
boy,
Bowles
I
couldn't
really
do and
want.
restrain your cursing.
Holy
I don't
crap!
know
I
if you saw his press
assume
game.
have seen you've seen at least a clip. You have at least
Yeah.
at least 7 f. F bombs,
F's,
S bombs, all
S's.
the bombs.
Yeah.
Oh my! I mean, you're
Everything
just
but we
watching that clip.
asked
You,
pretty
you
much
watch
came out.
you watch because normally when you have a 28-14 effing collapse, because that's what that was. Because how many people?
Yeah.
How many people? 28-14. Screw this game.
It's
It's
over.
over. Bucks won. My ass is going to bed. I mean,
Yeah. The Falcons
I
were
stayed up.
104-1 when they were behind by 14 points in the game in the fourth quarter before that game.
I stayed up everything, including that heartbreaking field goal. That as a Bucks fan, you're asking, how can my defense be that bad? Just because
Yeah,
you're
I want
thinking 28-14. What was the probability that the Bucks won and had the game at that point? How many people were, like I said, they look at that score. Oh my God! Then you had just the fumble, that I saw. There was a meme that who
7.
recovered this ball?
It was the
Who
lineman. That wasn't
recovered
even
it?
in frame. But there were
Yeah, because they're
7
like
Buccaneers around the ball.
because you had like a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire option, and one was who recovered the ball, Howard the Duck. Another one, I forget who the heck it was. It was like Shrek or somebody, Bucks player or Falcons player, and because you're just going, how the did they recover? And then you had the other one, simultaneous recovery. You're like, what the
Yeah, there were some
ever living?
interesting ones in this
I'm,
one.
I'm trying. I'm trying. But simultaneously, and you're like, what the hell is that even mean? And now, all right, get down. That was overturned.
Yeah.
I
There were
mean,
some weird
I
ones in
mean,
this game.
just the
Look,
and you thought the officiating was clearly on the side of the Bucks. It was 19 penalties, 19 accepted penalties, which was the most in flipping franchise history that the Falcons accepted. 19 penalties, and they still lost.
yeah.
How? You had London was out. No Drake London. Let's give Kyle Pitts how he goes in defense worse. Last game, Tyler Shuck. You knew he was their entire offense in the Saints. Bucks couldn't stop him. Kyle Pitts was pretty much Bijan, helping fantasy, but oh my God, in reality, what a burn! He absolutely torched the Bucks. Kyle Pitts had his league-winning game
Most
of the
half
year.
point PPR points by a tight end since the year
Oh my!
2000.
I'm just you're as a Bucks fan. As a Bucks fan, you're right up there. You saw Bulls. You saw that clip. You saw that press conference. He's gone. He's getting
Yeah.
fired. I mean, the only way his ass doesn't get fired is if they somehow win the South.
They
And
got
with how
losers.
they played that game against the Falcons, that team, Falcons, let me check. They're eliminated, right?
Yeah, they're out.
right? They don't have any chance of making the playoffs. They have zero chance of getting in. And then you have the Bucks do that. I gotta say, do that shit. The Bucks do
Yeah.
that. I mean, because this is what happened last year. Because we remember that last stretch. I forget which game it was, whether it was Panthers or Saints, that they lost and they could have clinched the division. But then the next week they won and they clinched it. So not exactly what you would call a domination going into this year. And then you have that, and then they control their own destiny going forward. But now all of a
They
sudden,
still do.
Panthers
They still do.
Panthers have the lead. They now have the lead, and you better believe they are going to be locked on. They're going to be so motivated to beat
Yeah.
the
So
Saints this week like we have never seen before. They else is going to get that team motivated like a mother. Seriously, I mean, they are going to be ready and locked on. And the Bucks, it's just what do you take away from the game? But just tackling. I mean, at times the defense was there, but when they really needed to be,
yeah.
3rd and 28. You just take Mike Evans slamming the helmet and visibly yelling that to the media, knowing full well that's going to go flipping viral. And
Yeah.
no excuses. Absolutely no excuses because
Yeah.
what's the typical coach response? Well, it's on me. I've got to do a better job. Nah, 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 nah. He threw the defense under
Yeah.
the mother
You need
effing
to care a
bus.
little bit more. You
Threw
need to know where it effing hurts. He basically said that the defense let them down. They did not care about this game. It is
because
a
he had some
great,
people.
it is an all time kind of press conference. And this is a mild mannered man who doesn't typically do this kind of thing in a press conference. So if you haven't seen it and you don't mind a little profanity or bleeping, go check it out
A
because he
little, a little.
definitely throws his defense under the bus. Now, the good news for Tampa Bay is this game and the game against Miami really don't mean a damn thing. They can lose both of those games. If they beat the Panthers both games, they win the division on the head-to-head tiebreaker
Those are the
because
most important ones.
it doesn't matter. If the Panthers win this week against the Saints, and I think they play the Seahawks is another non-Bucks game. They win both of those, they're 9-6, and the Bucks lose this game and the one of the Dolphins, they're 7-8. But if they sweep the Panthers, both teams finish 7-9 or 9-8, and the Bucks have the head-to-head tiebreaker. So this game, in the grand scheme of things for the Bucks, good news, did not matter for playoff position, playoff
It
eligibility. You win your
still
games against the Panthers, you get in.
effing
But
sucks.
the thought I had was this was a perfect game to describe why both of these head coaches are going to lose their jobs. You had the Falcons, poor discipline, 19 penalties, looked lost at times, and it just didn't look like a good team. But then you have the Bucks who are rolling, all of a sudden just choke away a lead. And you had the Falcons do the, well, we're down by 14, we got a touchdown, we're going to go for two. They failed, they got another touchdown and failed again. They needed 3 scores to make this comeback happen, and they did. The Bucks peaked out at
Kyle
a
Pitts
92.8
was
winning
the difference.
percentage. A 92.8 odds to win percentage was the peak I saw on the ESPN graph that you can see. It may have gotten a little bit higher, but that is the peak I saw. That's still not quite a certainty, but pretty close to it. The Bucks fall to 7-7. The Falcons move to 5-9. The Falcons can still pass the Bucks in the division, which is not great either. Let's talk about the stat lines because there were some good performances in this game. You alluded to Bijan Robinson. Kirk Cousins was the quarterback, 30 for 44
If
for
you started him in
300.
fantasy, you were pleasantly surprised.
Start Kirk Cousins when he plays Tampa. That's the lesson here because he had 2 massive games last year before losing his job. 30 for 44 for 373 and 3 touchdowns. If you played him in fantasy, you had a great week. Bijan Robinson, if you played him in fantasy, you had a great week.
Better than the
19
previous week.
carries, 19 carries for 93 yards and a touchdown. Also, 8 catches for 82 yards through the air. Again, a phenomenal week. If you started Kyle Pitts, your matchup is almost certainly over
Yeah, because
at this
I
point.
checked. I didn't see he was being played in the 10-team league nor in the 16. I know about the 16-team league.
He's probably played, but it could have been on a team that's not in the playoffs. I know in a league, my wife is in the playoffs. on the bench playing Mark Andrews against Cincinnati, which I'll say this. That's the right decision without the result being in play.
Yeah,
Baltimore
normally
against
you're basing
Cincinnati. Cincinnati's
Kyle
the
Pitts
worst
on what
defense.
he's done so far. It's been
He's been fine. But Baltimore is playing the worst tight end defense in the NFL. Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely should both have monster games. It's the right decision not play Kyle Pitts against Tampa to play a guy like Mark Andrews in a better matchup. But the results,
Sanders definitely lately has been seriously touchdown dependent. Though.
I've got a best ball league where I have Kirk Cousins and Kyle Pitts. Hello, Kyle Pitts, 11 catches, 166 yards, and 3 touchdowns. The last one being a little controversial. Did his butt get down? Did his elbow get down first? One's in, one's out. It's very, very close. However, they called on the field, which was a touchdown. They need to uphold it. There was nothing to overturn it one way or the other. It was almost simultaneous. Very tough play. One of the breaks that went against Tampa Bay in this one. But again, I think it was the highest half-point PPR tight end game since the year 2000. And it was Kyle Pitts, week 1 of your fantasy playoffs. If you played against him, hopefully you've got some really good players coming. If not, it could be an early exit for you. There were good news on the Buck side of things. Baker Mayfield, not a great night, 19 for 34, 277 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Bucky Irving, why are they putting Sean Tucker in at the goal line? The guy can't run. He
That's
4
sort of
carries
like
for
that's
7
kind of like
yards
a
and a touchdown
Tyler
was Tucker's
Algier
line.
sniping Bijan type.
Yeah,
thing.
but Tyler Algier is a good running. Like, let's go back. I didn't mention Algier's line. 2 for 18. Didn't get a lot of opportunity. He was 2 carries for 18 yards. Sean Tucker got prime carries in the red zone. 4 for 7. Did get a touchdown, but 4
Yeah, 'cause it
carries
was
for
more
7
like a
yards.
Sean Tucker, Bucky Irving, Rashad White was
No
kind of a
carries for
non-factor.
Bucky Irving inside the 10, inside the 5. That's shameful. Again, a reason that Todd Bowles is going to get fired. Bucky Irving, 16 carries for 60 yards, was having a pretty good average. He did have 1 catch for 11 yards. A disappointing fantasy night if you had him. You did get the touchdown for Tucker if you played him. You did get a touchdown by Devin Culp if you played him. You did get 1 for Chris Godwin, which hurt me in a league. 4 catches for 20 yards and a touchdown. Also got a 2-point conversion. Chris Godwin on the same touchdown. Leading the way in the receiving game, though, it was Mike Evans. 12 targets, 6 catches for 132 yards. You saw Emeka Egbuka, not a great game, but not a bad one. 4 for 64. Jalen McMillan, good to see him come back. Almost got the touchdown. Very close there. They did score with Sean
When
Tucker on the
game
next couple of
started out
plays.
like that, you're like Star Wars. I have a bad feeling.
I mean, they did get the touchdown immediately after, which was good. But Jalen McMillan, 2 catches for 38 yards on both targets, coming back from that neck injury. Just being on the field and playing, great to see. Mike Evans with that, got his legs taken out from him, landing on the back and the shoulder, being okay. That was good to see. But a very disappointing game for the Buccaneers, especially in that fourth quarter where they blew it. And you got to look at the effort of the defense, especially on that fumble where 7 guys are there.
You had some of the defense players who didn't stick around for post-game interview.
Yeah.
Wonder why.
Yeah. But when you have 7 Buccaneers and a Darnell Mooney's face down on the turf and an offensive lineman who's not in the frame can come in and get the ball, rip it away, there is something wrong. That should have been the Bucs ball. That should have been game, but that's not how it went. So Buccaneers fall 29-28 in a very epic collapse. But if we're being 100% honest, if you're going to honor the team with the 50th anniversary creamsicle jerseys, you honor them by losing. This team started 0-26 in those jerseys. They honored the team, not how Bucs fans wanted them to.
1 a week for the Bucs to have a Amazon Prime docuseries coming up.
Oh, that's gross. Anyways, let's go. We'll talk some news. The big story, which doesn't seem like it's going to be too big of a story, is Christian McCaffrey popping up on the injury report today as questionable. It is a back injury, but he is expected to be quote-unquote good to go per Ian Rappaport. Josh Jacobs is maybe the next.
No shock that T. Higgins is ruled out for this week.
Yeah, T. Higgins has been ruled out with a concussion. Not a big surprise there. The Colts will start Phillip Rivers on Sunday against the
The
Seahawks.
biggest no shock Sherlock headline of the day.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs, we don't know what's going to happen, but the Packers elevated running back Pierre Strong for the game. That is not a great sign. It's not a guarantee that he doesn't play, but sometimes you have to look with the roster move. They could healthy scratch him if Josh Jacobs plays, but the fact that they're elevating him to the active roster where they have the option to play him is concerning for Josh Jacobs managers. I
And
think he'll be a game time decision, truly a game time
if
decision.
we can just take a brief sports shuffle detour away from week 15, we'll get back to week 15 because we had that. I think even with the Philip Rivers news, you'll agree with me that this week was pretty much a predominant college football
Yeah, between the
news
college
story.
football playoffs and that team up north having some
Yeah,
issues.
because I'm just curious. I have to ask what were your thoughts when all of a sudden you had, of course, as we saw at the start of the year, Jim Harbaugh going over to the NFL to the
Yeah, that was the start of
Chargers and
last year.
doing a pretty good job, and
Yeah,
then
he is.
Sharon Moore taking on over and a name that you think, well, okay, we're not going to hear much about him. Oh, 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 oh,
I mean,
oh,
you shouldn't
oh.
hear about the head coach of Michigan unless they're winning national championships or at least in the hunt, the way you were with Jim Harbaugh. I couldn't tell you who the head coach of Michigan was before that, offhand. They didn't. They
Oh,
weren't relevant.
boy. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, right smack in the good time for news talk and sports talk because you have kind of a Monday. Everyone's reacting to what happened with the previous week.
Yeah,
You
we,
really
we were
don't
talking about
preview
Notre Dame's beef and not getting in and not wanting to play
endlessly,
a bowl game.
and
Perspective
it's
Notre
nice.
Dame, it can be worse.
And all of a sudden, you have more fired for cause for having
Which
an
means the rest of his
inappropriate
contract gets voided,
relationship
no payment.
with a staffer. And
Mind you, he was married to
yeah,
not the
married,
staffer.
three daughters, three young daughters. He's already married, and the craziness just gets absolutely worse because then he was arrested and detained because apparently he broke into the staffer's home and threatened them. It was crazy. One, as all of a sudden he's charged with two misdemeanors and a
Yeah.
felony that could have him face up to 5 years. So all of a sudden, you go from you're the king in Michigan. You are literally the king.
Yeah.
You've got the whole kingdom bowing at your feet. You're the head coach of the Michigan freaking Wolverines. And now you've had to post $25,000 bail. And I saw another story, and you sort of uh, make of this what you will, because you have some stories true, other stories not. But I even saw one that allegedly had an OnlyFans model saying that he was sliding into her DMs after he posted bail, and you're going, okay, well, you kind of have to sort of. Some people are kind of trying to promote themselves, but on the other hand, you're like, yeah, maybe we could see the former coach doing that, but
Yeah.
you're just trying to process this whole insane story that's like something bad out of TMZ, Ryan. Just what in the actual is going
Yeah.
on?
It very quickly went from Notre Dame's not going to play a bowl game because they're upset they didn't make the college football playoffs, and that's this, that, and the other. That's the biggest story in college football. And then that disappeared. And rightfully so. And at first it's like, oh, he's fired with cause. What the hell is going on? And then it gets worse, and it gets worse, and the details come out, and it continues to get worse. Apparently, he was fired. He's got some kind of mental situation that I'm not 100% capable of talking upon, but there are demons in the closet there mentally with this man.
Ooh,
I hope he gets the help he needs
just a little
because
bit.
mental
Amen.
illness is a real thing. But he was fired for with cause. I guess I, I don't know all the details about what the cause was.
Yeah, because
It's a
he
mess
really had showcase or show cause or whatever it's called because of the whole
because
side ceiling scandal
all of the
already.
criminal stuff came after the firing. So
Two
it's a
misdemeanors
bad
and a felony,
situation.
that's up to 5 years. Just
And as much as I'm not a fan of the school, I was raised in a Buckeyes household. I have no love lost for Michigan at all. It's a top 10 to 15 coaching opportunity in college football. You know, you got
That's about
Alabama, you've got Ohio State, you've got
one
Penn State, you've got a handful of teams that are up there, but Michigan's probably top 10 prestige
yeah,
coaching
'cause I
job.
heard
As
one
much
of
as I
the
can't stand the
arguments.
school.
And one of the arguments made by one host, I'm forgetting which one it was. It was not one of the main personalities out there, but they were wondering if Sharon actually deserved, because he had a lot more coaches with a lot more tenure out there, and all of a sudden here he's basically just handed one of the prime coaching jobs in the entire country, basically on a silver platter. Here you go.
Yeah. But yeah, the story continues to get weird. Paige, the staffer, I don't think they've released the last name, fortunately for her. There are
Who
pictures of her going around.
allegedly, I saw one
Go ahead.
yeah, that allegedly she's an NFL owner's daughter or something like that.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
don't
if
know.
that's
I mean,
true or not, but
there are stories about, this has been going on. The school knew about it, but it got worse, and that's why the firing occurred. There are stories about, him sending Plan B to her home after one of their affairs may have bared fruit. Just to leave that there. So it's a really unfortunate situation. Um, you have to hold more than the staffer. I mean, the staffer has some responsibility. If you know the guy's married, say no. But a position of power like that you said, the king of Michigan. This is someone that you can throw your clout, you can throw your position and your title around and have people do things that they normally wouldn't want to do. And I'm not gonna say the staffer didn't do anything wrong. They shouldn't have known better. But there's some times when your position as the head coach of Michigan gets you benefits that you shouldn't be able to get otherwise, maybe. And that could have been part of this whole thing happening behind the scenes. It's a crazy story, and I don't think it's done developing.
yeah.
Again, with his mental situation and with everything going on, who knows? This could be something that gets even darker before it's over. Hopefully,
Hope
cooler
not.
heads will prevail, and you just kind of go with the worst of the worst right now is over, and it doesn't get any more crazy. But I feel like something's coming.
But yeah, so shall we move on to something a little bit lighter, such as Week 15, and
Yeah,
see if
let's
we can
talk about it.
let's do better and see if we can do better than our picks on Thursday night. Boy,
Yeah, it wasn't great, and I should probably double check my order because I know you said it, but I didn't do it. We don't want those situations where are we gonna do this game right now instead of that game? Oh yeah, they've changed things. So I
that's
will get the
why
sheet
I
up.
sent you that schedule, because I figured.
You did. I was just not in a position to do anything with it. So we are going to start with Browns and Bears. Cleveland 3-10. Chicago 9-4. Joel, go ahead with the line. I'm sure the Bears are heavy favorites.
Yeah, you can't imagine the Browns are the favorite. Good God, -7.5, -425, 38.5 is not surprisingly the over under.
And the schedule did not change. So I don't need to do anything. Yay. It's always good when that
It's
happens.
always better
I
to
don't know what
double
happened
check.
last week.
Discount
And what was
or
the line on that
otherwise.
one? Chicago by what? 9.5, you said?
-7.5 for the
7.5.
Bears.
Yeah, Bears coming off a tough loss to the Packers, but they showed well. The Browns coming off of an even worse loss to the Titans. For the Browns, you can still play Quidshon Judkins, maybe Jerry Judy, and Harold Fannin should be starting. David Njoku is out this week, so Fannin Jr., the tight end, should get all the work. That should be a gold mine. But Jerry Judy had a long touchdown and maybe has a little bit more of a rapport with Shador Sanders, who looked really good in the loss last week. For the Bears, you can play Monunga, you can play Swift. I haven't seen an update on Roma Dunze. I think he's supposed to be back this week. I don't know if you want to play any of those wide receivers, but Colson Loveland, the tight end, could be an interesting play as well. Bears rebounding. They need to rebound in this one. If they lose a game to Cleveland, it's a warning sign for, well, you lost to Cleveland, and they're likely going to be on the outside of the playoff picture looking in. Or at least they could be. Joel, who do you got?
Yeah, the question is, how do the Bears respond flying to a hard loss from last week? And look at the Browns are going to be without four of their five starters from week one. And you have the fifth, who's listed as questionable. Can
On the
Sanders
offensive line?
behind
Yeah.
Yep. Can Sanders behind a makeshift O line perform against a Bears team that can ground and pound in harsh weather conditions, especially when you look at that
Yeah.
weather forecast? Oh boy,
Cold. Cold
that
and
that
possibly windy.
that gonna be Elsa cold. Let it go, let it go. I have to pick the Bears here, and I think we see Sanders get a little piece of humble pie from the Windy City.
Yeah, hopefully for the Browns, Shador looks good in this game, but I agree with you. I think the Bears win. If the Bears lose, they play Green Bay next week. Looking ahead could be a key factor in this. I hope and think Ben Johnson's a good enough coach to keep them in line. They're a good enough team to beat this badly beaten down Browns team. I think they've done. I'm taking Chicago as well. And we move on to the rematch from a couple weeks on Thanksgiving ago. Baltimore at Cincinnati.
And do you want to guess the line here?
Ravens by 3.5.
Pretty close.
Okay.
Ravens 2.5.
Okay.
Minus
Cincinnati getting a
135
little
money
benefit.
line. 52.5 with the over and under.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago, this was a 34 to or 32-14 win for the Bengals in Baltimore. And the return of Joe Burrow. The Bengals defense wasn't as good last week against Buffalo, but Buffalo is one of the better offenses in the league. We have seen Lamar Jackson struggle. He did get back on track. He's likely in your starting lineup for most of your fantasy playoffs. I know I'm going against him in a couple weeks, so I hope for my sake he does not have a good game, but he likely will. Derrick Henry at running back looks like he's got a pretty good stretch of games to round out the season. He's going to be in your lineup as well. And we mentioned it when I mentioned the Kyle Pitts was on the bench for Mark Andrews, and Cincinnati's the worst team, period, against the tight end. I think if you just put who did what at the tight end position as one player, Cincinnati opponent, it would be a top 7 scoring player at the pass catching position. You would exclude the running backs and wide or quarterbacks. So Andrews and Isaiah Likely can both be played in this matchup for the Bengals. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Chase Brown, all in your lineup. Someone like Tinsley or Yoshivas with Higgins out could be a good option as well. Tinsley had a better game last time because T. Higgins missed that game with a concussion as well. Or was that the Jamar Chase game? I can't remember. They both missed time. But they had one wide receiver out the last time they played Baltimore, and Tinsley was the one who stepped up. This is a must-win game for Baltimore and for Cincinnati. If Cincinnati has any hopes of winning the division, they have to win out. Baltimore, though, now one game back at first place. The Dolphins are playing Pittsburgh Monday night. Pittsburgh will know if they can make a 2-game lead with 3 to go going into that game. So, Joel, who do you got?
Yeah, you had an update about Joe Burrow that the remarks just came out of a desire. He wants to win. He's tired of losing.
Yeah.
But Burrow, the healthier of the two quarterbacks right now, that did the Bengals unit get Burrow's message that he sent out? And I just think the Bengals bounce back and show the NFL that they're still around. And I think the Ravens just seem to start to fade away in 2025. I know I don't have any confidence in them. You really have that Isaiah Likely call just had to absolutely dampen their spirits as they're still thinking about it. I know, fight if we get Trevon, but they still have to be thinking about it going on to Cincinnati right now. I think even with T. Higgins out, the Bengals are the better and the healthier unit.
Yeah, I didn't think we'd agree on this one, but we do. I'm taking Cincinnati as well. They impressed me with how they played this team 2 weeks ago in Baltimore. You've got a home game. It's going to be cold. Again, I think wind chill is going to be negative temperatures for a lot of the Midwest this weekend. So it's going to be bitterly cold. You're going to need Derrick Henry. You're going to need Chase Brown to really pace things. If you've got the Burrow Chase stack, you should be okay. But it could be a really cold, windy game, which means the defensive disadvantage for Cincinnati could be lessened because the weather makes it harder to do what the Ravens are going to want to do in the air. And I just think you're right. The Ravens look like a team that is just going to start bowing out. I think we see the same thing kind of with Kansas City last week. It just looked like a team that's not going to elevate it, and they're going to bow out sooner rather than later. I think Cincinnati with Joe Burrow is the hungrier team, even though they're further out of the playoff race. I just think Cincinnati, even without Higgins, they're going to find a way to get it done. And again, they stomped this team a couple weeks ago.
And what do you think the line is in Houston, Ryan?
Oh, it's got to be 10 plus. It's got to be 9.5
Pretty
plus, I should say, because of the hook.
exactly.
Yeah.
Second guess, exactly dead on. 9.5 minus 575, 42.5 over under.
Houston, obviously the favorite in this one. For the Cardinals, Trey Benson was not activated on IR. He is going to be out for the rest of the season, so it is going to be Bam night. No Marvin Harrison Jr. in this game.
Oh,
It's a
damn,
brutal
man.
matchup. It is a brutal matchup in this one. Houston has the best defense against quarterbacks and wide receivers, so Michael Wilson has been fantastic as a wide receiver. Play him with caution. Not a good matchup. Same thing with Jacoby Brissett. I think you can still play Trey McBride with pretty good confidence because the tight end is one of the weaker spots for the Texans. They're pretty strong across the board on the defensive side, but I think the tight end is one of the weaker spots. For the Texans, it's Nico Collins and Woody Marks, and I think you check out if you need a desperation or a deeper play. Someone like Jaden Higgins at the wide receiver position or Dalton Schultz at the tight end position could be played, and this could be a sneaky spot for C.J. Stroud to have a great game. Arizona's got a bad defense. We've seen it happen. They look like a team that's rolling over and dying in front of us. Their head coach is almost certainly out the door at the end of the season, if not sooner. But crazy things happen. We see, Atlanta fighting for what looks like a coach out the door, out of the playoffs, beating a good team. Who do you got in this one?
Yeah, every time you mention CJ Stroud, I keep hearing Stroud. One from Grossi's scripted videos. But yeah, let me tell you, the Cards right now, I think we're talking about teams checking out. It's the time of the year when they check out in the NFL motel. I think Cardinals are another one of those teams that are going to check out in the 2025 season early after getting stomped. I mean, just STOMPED by the Rams last week. The Texans are locked in on getting the playoffs, and the Cards just trashed in the wake of the storm from last week that I don't think anybody wants to face the Texans in the playoffs with that defense that I've seen how dominant it is. I'm picking the Texans, and I'm not blinking, and I'm not thinking.
No, this has to be Houston. We know Gannon's going to be fired. If you've watched the Cardinals, they can't retain this man. We'll see what happens with Kyler Murray long term and the rest of this team, but the Cardinals look so bad, and Houston looks so good defensively. This should be a very easy win for Houston, and we'll move on.
And we go to Duval County with the jersey that you're wearing, because I see you're wearing a Jaguars jersey today. What's the line in Duval?
It is the Jets going to Jacksonville. The Jets, they're not rolling over and dying. Credit to them. They are beat the hell up, but they're not rolling over and dying for their head coach. But Jacksonville's got to be a 7.5 point favorite in this game.
13.5 favorite.
Right. I should have thought about this. It's going to be Brady Cook at quarterback, it sounds like, for the Jets. And that, I think, does get that extra touchdown or so in there. For the Jets, I think the best recommendation is don't play any of them. But if you're going to play one, it's got to be Breece Hall. Hope for little dump-offs. Hope he breaks a big run. Jacksonville does have a very capable defense.
Sit Adonai Mitchell and sit Mitchell this week. Oh, boy.
Yeah, that is absolute pure desperation, going for garbage time numbers, basically, if you're playing those guys. It's Breece Hall and probably more accurately nothing for the Jets.
And can you start the go-kart in fantasy yet?
The injury cart, maybe. This is a great week for Jacksonville's defense. We saw Dolphins' defense, who hasn't been great all season long, but they dominated this game last week against the Jets with Brady Cook at the quarterback position, or For the Jags, you can definitely play Trevor Lawrence. He's on a little bit of a heater and another bad matchup. Travis Etienne, he's been fantastic in Jaguars win. This looks like a Jaguars win, so he's likely going to be fantastic again. Brian Thomas Jr. came back from the injury, had a pretty good game last week. Maybe he's getting things going. And Jacoby Myers, Brenton Strange, both very startable as well. Jaguars look like a surefire bet to win, as any you're going to see all season long, but crazy things do happen. Joel, who you got?
Yeah, and other numbers real quick. -$9 favorites and over under 41.5. And while many see this as a trap game and start the Black Bar, it's a trap. Nah, no, not from the Jaguar. They're just lucky that every quarterback seemingly on the roster for the Jets is injured. That's why that's who's starting. Oh boy. So yeah, just the Jags DST might be a sneaky good play for Week 15. They're probably not available as just end the season may never be a truer acronym than in Week 15 as the Jags should just do whatever the belief they want to the helpless Jets. Picking the team that's wearing your jersey, Brian.
Yeah, I feel bad for Jets fans, and I feel bad for a lot of the Jets players because they are still continuing to fight. But with the quarterback situation, what it is, and the injury situation around, no Garrett Wilson still, other injuries on the offensive and defensive lines, you just don't have a chance. You'd have to be either insane or the most blinded Jets fan to take the Jets. I'm not either of those things. I'm taking the Jags pretty easily. I hope for the Jets fans' sake you see signs of life and maybe Brady Cook can be somebody to retain next year because I don't think you're bringing back Justin Fields or Tyrod Taylor. But the Jets are in a good position to lose some games going down the stretch and maybe to get their franchise quarterback in the draft. They may have the top pick. And if not, they can trade up to it fairly easily.
All right, all right. Are you ready to guess the line in Arrowhead?
I think Kansas City is favored by 3.5. I don't think they
Five,
should be that much of favorites.
close but no cigar, -5.5.
Kansas City is at home against the Chargers. 5.5 point favorites is, I think, excessive. But Joel, what's the rest of the numbers there?
-250 and 41.5 for the over and under.
The Chiefs can officially not win the AFC West. They have been eliminated from that contention. Should they lose this
We've heard
week?
that a time or two or 2,000 already this week.
Yeah, should they lose this game and Houston win, they're pretty much, I think they might be eliminated. I think with the
El
tiebreaker with
Dunzo.
Houston, the Houston tiebreaker, they would have the tiebreaker with the Chargers and the Bills. I think they'd be out. I think this is an elimination game for the Chiefs, all things
No
considered.
doubt they must be out.
Yeah, if Houston can beat the Cardinals, the Chiefs lose. Houston is 9-5 for the head-to-head tiebreaker, 6-8 with 3 games left. You tell me where my math is wrong. Maybe there's an obscure tiebreaker that I'm not aware of, multi-team. But they're, at the very least, on the most desperate form of life support if they lose this game and Houston wins. For the Chargers, Omarion Hampton was very good last week. Kamoni Vidal was also good, but he wasn't used as much as he was in the prior weeks. You might be worried that
sad McConkey last week.
Yeah, Sam McConkey was bad. Kamani Vidal might see even less work this week as Hampton gets back into the role. The Kansas City defense is very, very good, so don't expect either one of them to be like an RB1 this week. The RB1, they might be like 10 to 12, but they're not going to be the league winners against that Kansas City defense. I don't know who you can trust in the passing game after last week. Lad McConkey is going to be your best bet, but it's still a little sketchy. Quentin Johnson's been banged up and not so good. Keenan Allen. Aronde Gatson should have a bounce back week. Kansas City's not as good against the tight end as their matchup was last week. For the Chiefs, Pat Mahomes you can play, and I think it's Rashee Rice.
Is out.
Rashee Rice and Pat Mahomes is about it. Travis Kelce at tight end. I don't trust any of the running backs. I don't trust any of the other receivers. Maybe you're worthy if you're desperate, maybe. But this is as back against the wall as the Kansas City Chiefs get. The Chargers being a division rival, they play Denver on Christmas night. Kansas City might be eliminated by Christmas, which would be funny for a lot of fans. But Kansas City with the back against the wall is a dangerous team. Pat Mahomes is not going to go down without a fight. The Chargers are in their way. Who gets it done?
Yeah, I actually asked Dennis Phillips on a weather chat on DPL. I go, what does the Euro say about Lad McConkey this week?
Mm,
Yeah, his response was Lad McConkey hasn't been real good recently.
no, he
But
hasn't.
yeah, Chiefs were exposed by the Texans last week, and if they cannot recover and prove that they can whip the Chargers, going to be a very long offseason. Chargers D really stepped up big time against the Eagles, and I think the Chargers can do this voodoo magic again and end the dynasty. I'm going to go crazy. I'm going all in. I'm picking Justin Herbert with that hand protector to beat the Chiefs and end their dynasty.
I'm going to take Kansas City. Justin Herbert's still playing with that broken hand. That's not ideal. That offensive line, we saw them get lit up last week against Philadelphia. Kansas City's got a great front seven. They should be able to get some pressure on him. I don't think the Chargers are going to outscore the Chiefs. And I think the Chiefs defense is going to hold this game in check enough for Pat Mahomes to do Pat Mahomes things. I think Kansas City battles and takes a very close win. Again, this should be a colder weather game, possibly high wind. The guys from Southern California, not as used to that as well. I think they get the win. I don't think the Chiefs are making the playoffs because I think Houston's going to keep pace
Oh, yeah?
and Buffalo's going to keep ahead. But I think Kansas City gets the win and keeps their hopes at least slimly alive in what should be a very good game. And if the Chargers win, well, Kansas City, we can put the headstone out because they are done.
And can you
Another big
guess
game.
what the line is and who's the favorite in Foxborough? Oh,
It Buffalo's already lost New England in Buffalo. It should be New England by about a field goal, but I think it's Buffalo by 3.5. No,
Bills minus 1.5.
okay. It should still be New England by about a field goal. Just the home team, the respect they've already beaten this team on the road. The fact they are tied for the 1 seed, they're the 2 seed on tiebreaker, but the best record in football. I think you got to give them a little bit more credit. But Buffalo has this, just like Kansas City. Buffalo and Kansas City, Baltimore still has that grip on people because they're supposed to be good teams. Buffalo is, but the other team maybe not so much. But they're getting more credit than I think they deserve.
Also minus 120 and 49.5. They think there's going to be a little bit of scoring in this game.
Yeah, this one shouldn't be as cold, shouldn't be as affected by weather. Time will tell. Buffalo, you're playing Josh Allen and playing James Cook. You're going to play Dalton Kincaid, and the tight ends in this might be the best bet. Even Dawson Knox might have a good game. The wide receivers for Buffalo, it's Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman. Play with caution. One of them may have a pop-up good game, but they're not anybody you want to trust. For the Patriots, Drake May has been fantastic. Henderson and Stevenson are both playable. I think Henderson's the one you want, but in a pinch, Stevenson will
Stephon
do.
Diggs should have another good revenge game.
Stephon Diggs had his best game of the season against Buffalo the first time. I would think he's going to be the wide receiver 1 for the Patriots this week in scoring. But keep in mind, Keyshawn Boutte is coming back from some injury for a long time. He's been better. He's getting back more into the flow. He may pop off as well. New England at home with a chance to wrap the division up. They would sweep Buffalo. No one else is catching them. So New England will win the division with a win today. In this this weekend. Do they get it done, or does Buffalo keep that winning streak alive? Possibly.
While the Bills, Ryan, may be the favorite, surprisingly, showing off their offensive prowess last week, the Patriots might just be just a little bit more motivated and rested, because don't forget, bye week,
Coming off
and
the
that
bye.
definitely helps them and factors in with the AFC East title within their grasp with 2 tanks as opposed to 1. You're talking Henderson on one side, Ramondre Stevenson, Travion Henderson on one side, Ramondre Stevenson on the other side, as opposed to 1, Josh Allen, James Cook, even though Josh Allen can be his own tank. And we see when all of a sudden he just rips off a 40-yard touchdown run out of nowhere. But yeah, those 2 tanks ready to be lined up behind Drake May and ready to strike. I just think that's more firepower than Josh Allen and Cook combined by far. Pats at home, normal schedule, rest after the bye, and the lights are not as bright. And there is a crown off in the distance, gleaming. It's gleaming. I've got to pick the Patriots here, Frying.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw my jaw drop. That had nothing to do with your prediction. I just happened to check the Sharks score. They came back from a 5-1 deficit in the third period to win 6-5 in overtime. So that's pretty cool. You're taking New England. I'm taking New England as well. This defense is legitimate for the Patriots. Drake May is the probably number 2 in the MVP race behind Matthew Stafford for my money. It wouldn't surprise me if Drake May wins the MVP. I think the Patriots know they need to stop James Cook and not let Josh Allen just run all over the place. If they can stop the wide receivers or the tight ends, it makes them very one-dimensional. And I just think the Patriots, you can run on the Bills. They've got 2 of their best weapons in the backfield, and Henderson can go nuclear. Stevenson can still be a very good asset at the same time. This could be one of those where they win the game by running 250 yards plus on this Bills defense, and I think the Patriots win the AFC East on Sunday.
And we go to the Tank Bowl in the Big Apple.
Big game for draft positioning. The Washington Commanders go to New York to face the Giants. No Jaden Daniels, will be Marcus Mariota once again. I'm going to say the Giants are favored by 4.5.
Close. No cigar. Minus 2.5, minus 1.2, and over under 47.5.
The Giants have been close in a lot of games against much better teams, blowing late leads. But you're looking at teams like Denver, looking at teams like, I think they did it against, who was it last time? Denver was the worst one. Detroit, they did that bad. Did they do that against Tampa as well, have a lead? Or am I thinking of they've had 5 or 6 games where they've had big in the fourth quarter and lost.
I don't think they played Tampa this year, have they?
Maybe not. I'm just forgetting the teams that they have lost. Let me see if I can pull them up. Because they're not bad teams. They're not bad teams they've blown leads to. And they're playing a bad team in Washington.
You had that Jackson Dart. You had Jameis Winston.
Bears,
had a good game
Packers,
with a
49ers, Eagles, Broncos. Those are some of the teams they've blown leads to. Cowboys early on in the season, that looks like a good team. The Lions, they've lost to some very good teams in close games. Washington's not one of them, so I'm a little surprised it's as close of a line as it is. For the Commanders, I think it's McLaurin and Deebo Samuel, and probably check out if you need one. Chris Rodriguez at running back is not a terrible option. For the Giants, Devin Singletary and Tyrone Tracy should be in a
confidence you have, but when you're desperate.
Yeah. Should be a timeshare for the Giants.
Yeah, because I heard Tyrone
Singletary and Tracy. He's back, but he did miss some time, so maybe Singletary leads the timeshare. He's probably the one of the 2 you really would want, but it's a timeshare. It's going to be hot hand. If one of them goes off, don't be surprised if it's not the one you started.
I know how much you trust the Giants' offense, though, other than maybe garbage time.
Did you see J.J. McCarthy light up this Washington team last week? J.J. McCarthy. You still have Jackson Dart, who's a good start. You still have Theo Johnson at tight end, who's a great start. You still have Wan'Dale Robinson, who's quietly putting together a fantastic season. All of those names I just mentioned can and should be in your lineup as well. I think I'm playing Wan'Dale Robinson over DK Metcalf this week after DK had his big week. We'll talk about the Steelers later, but T.J. Watt with his surgery. There were also the Perner curse wheel this week, which has been red hot, and when you have a guy going for surgery as your best player, it's not ideal, especially after the last guy got the Achilles injury. But we'll talk about that game later.
As Perna spins the curse wheel, it lands on the Steelers, and within 24 hours, T.J. Watt.
Yeah, they've already, whether they win or lose the game Monday night, the curse wheel was correct. I'm going to say that much. But the Giants have enough weapons that you can play in your lineup is really the point there. Giants at home, Washington. This should be a very high-scoring game, I think. This should be a back-and-forth high-scoring game. It could turn into a turd because 2 bad teams can always turn any game into a turd. But I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think it's going to be a very entertaining game, similar to how Browns-Titans turned into an entertaining game. But, Joel, the question is who gets the win?
Yeah, even though this game is meaningless, other than we said it's a tank ball.
Draft position. The Giants hold the number 1 pick right now. That's a big deal.
You have to roll with the healthier Giants and Dart zipping around the field. Please, no more concussions. I think he's had enough of those this year. Neither one of these teams had what you would call a great 2025. Even though the Giants have been sexier and they've had a little bit more offensive fireworks,
The
but
Giants have given you hope for the future where Washington's given you concern.
uh, Wildflower getting into that stash a lot this year. And I think the Giants can add another win in to sort of help a year of disappointment fade into 2026. As you said, setting the tone for maybe a better future with some hope, getting neighbors back, getting
Yeah.
Scatterboo back, bolstering that defense, and all of a sudden Giants, can they talk about maybe getting back into the playoffs?
Yeah, I think next year is going to be interesting with Dart, Scatterboo, Neighbors, Theo Johnson, and Wandale Robinson as your core pieces. I mean, you can add another wide receiver in the later rounds that maybe can be your wide receiver three. You can really focus on that defense that has been great at times, not so great at some other times. You shore that up. Maybe they hold on to some of these leads next year they've blown, and they're a 9-8 style team fighting for the back end of the playoffs. I agree with you. I think they win this game. I saw some things out of Washington last week that were very concerning about not having the same amount of effort you want to see on the field. I think the Giants, because Jackson Dart is who he is, I don't think you're ever going to see this team roll over and die the way it looked like Washington last week again against
The
J.J. McCarthy, who
Washington
had three
or
touchdowns.
the Cardinals?
Yeah, I don't think the head coach is in any. I think of the name. I know it's Dan. I can't think of the last name. I don't think he's Dan Quinn. I don't think he's in any danger of getting fired. But at the same time, this does not look like a team that's it's looking to play games anymore. They're looking to just get done with the season and move forward. So I'm taking the Giants as well. And we move on to what should be another laugher of a game. We said, what do you say? The Jacksonville line was 13.5. Philadelphia and Las Vegas has to be very close to 13.5. I'm going to say 10.5 to 11.5 for obviously the Eagles.
Your second guess was actually you hit the freaking
Yeah.
bullseye, 11.5. Nice shot flying. Minus 675 from the money line, and not a lot of over and under, probably because the Raiders suck and the Eagles' offense hasn't exactly been its sterling self of late. 38.5.
38.5, and the Eagles are favored by 11. That means the Raiders aren't getting many points in this game. For the Raiders, it's Brock Bowers and Aston Gentry are the only ones you can consider playing. Kenny Pickett's going to be starting at quarterback. Former Eagles Super Bowl champion
Also, Trey
backup.
Tucker.
Trey Tucker's a dart throw. I mean, you're not happy if you're playing Trey Tucker, but if you
That's why
are,
he gave the raspberry.
hey, if you have T. Higgins in a deep league and he's going to miss this week and that's the best you can do, you could do worse. Hey, I had Drake London. Drake London missed. Fortunately, the leagues I have him, I either have a bye week or a replacement like Mike Evans available. So didn't hurt too bad. But at the same time, this is a different situation. For the Eagles, I think you can play everybody on this roster. Hurts after his god awful week, you kind of think he's going to want to rebound. AJ Brown's been good since he said, if you have me in fantasy, get rid of me.
Did you hear all of the bench Jalen Hurts takes this week?
That's a bad decision. If he has a bad game again, maybe you have to entertain not benching him, but saying, hey, I think it's Tanner McKee is the backup there. Give him 15% of the starters reps and just say, look, Jalen, if you play like ass for a third week in a row, assuming they play bad this week, assuming that, if you start the next game looking as bad as you've looked the last two, we have to at least give this other kid some snaps. So we're going to give him an opportunity to show us what he's got in practice first. I think he bounces back. Full disclosure, I think he has a good game this week. I think coming against Vegas at this time is exactly what he needed. AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley, all in your lineup again as well. This should be, based on the line, a very, very easy win for the Eagles. But the Eagles have made most of their games this season look pretty difficult. So, Joel, who do you got?
Can you imagine just a quick fantasy audible here? Can you imagine some matchup somewhere in some league, Ryan, that one team they're starting Philip Rivers and the other team is starting Kenny pick.
Not in a playoff matchup. I can't imagine that because if that's your options now, you probably haven't had good options or good luck all season long. So I would say that's probably not in anybody's playoff matchups, but it could be
The
in some
consolation bracket.
consolation
But
brackets.
but getting back to life, back to reality, I definitely have to pick the Eagles here. If you cannot beat the worst team in the NFL, and I know you have the Titans and I know you have the Browns, but it's got to be the Raiders there because their offense is absolutely flipping putrid. But by at least 2 touchdowns, you do not deserve to be talked about in a conversation about the Super Bowl. Period. And the positivity rabbit has been removed from the locker room. Now it is a 0-1 record. Now we can see if the losing streak can be removed. Yeah, I don't see how anybody with more than 2 brain cells picks the Raiders. You got to pick the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm taking the Eagles as well. Philadelphia, while they are struggling and while there are signs of concern for the playoffs and the Super Bowl run, there are concerns that that's not realistic. They are too good of a team to lose at home to Las Vegas. If
Oh,
Vegas goes into Philadelphia, there will be riots in the street if they win.
yeah.
I fully believe that.
I on because I did my picks on my solo show that I ended up saying that even if it meant that I give up a win, a win in our record, even by giving up a win, how sweet it would be to have the Raiders win and just to see the utter, sheer, pure chaos that would ensue next week on Sports Talk Radio everywhere, and how sweet that would be. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't
There
think
would
it's
be
going to happen.
riots in the streets of Philadelphia.
Can you just imagine? And the game is over. Final. Raiders win 12-9 or some crap like that with some of the other scores we've had this year.
Philadelphia is not losing this game. I don't believe that's even possible. But if they do, you're right. It's going to be absolute cinema watching Philadelphia go crazy with the fire Sirianni and fire the coordinators and fire Patullo and all the chants. And I guarantee you there is a car on fire. At least one in the city of Philadelphia after that loss. 100%.
It's not even playoffs for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's just you can't be the defending champs and a Super Bowl contender and lose to a team like Vegas. You just can't. Even though Patriots did it week 1. That was week 1. Not now. All right, we'll move on to another There's some big games. There's a lot of very obvious picks this week. But then there's some games like this one.
Really sexy games.
Yeah, Chargers, Chiefs, Baltimore, Cincinnati's up there as well. Buffalo, New England. We got Detroit, LA. We're going to talk about next. But this one, Green Bay at Denver. So this is one of those.
Who's the favorite here, Flying?
Man, that is tough because the respect for Denver is low. Green Bay on the road. I think Green Bay is a 2.5-point favorite on the road.
Are you sure you didn't cheat and look because you nailed it?
Oh, I didn't look. I don't look at the lines. I'm sure I mean, I listen to podcasts. I do have an against the spread pick 'em, but I really just like, all right, I'm picking this team. I pretty much just pick heads up. I don't look at them for very long. But the theory was Denver, while at home, should have more respect. They probably don't. Green Bay on the road.
Ugly offense really scares Vegas.
I mean,
because it was pretty much Harvey pounding ground, and if you had one of the receivers in Denver, you were out of luck.
Yeah. But the Packers look good against Chicago, and they look like a legitimate Super Bowl team, but so does Denver, even though they face a lighter schedule. I just think the respect for Denver's not there, and I figured they're going to overestimate Green Bay. Fair or unfair, I think that's just where it was. So what are the rest of the numbers?
Oh, so it's nose picking time.
Well, what's the rest of the numbers on it? Then we'll talk about the fantasy options.
Oh, rest of the numbers are my bad. Sorry, rest of the numbers are minus 2.5, minus 135, and an over under of 42.5.
This also screams like a very defensive game to me. Both defenses are very good. Denver has one of the best overall defenses in the league. Obviously, the Green Bay Packers have a good defense. Micah Parsons being an absolute menace. I think he's got the most sacks in any year of his career already. For the Packers, you got to keep an eye on Josh Jacobs' health because it's sounding more and more like he's going to miss. You follow the actions more than the words. He's going to be likely a true game time decision. If he misses that game, it's a huge, huge loss. Not the best fantasy option in this game because, well, Denver's a really good defense, but if he's in the lineup, you're playing him, he's too good to bench. Christian Watson is the decision I've got to make this week because he's been fantastic since coming back from the injury, but Denver's defense, you got to think Surtain is going to be all over him. He is the wide receiver one on this team right now. Between him, Jalen Reed, you've got options. I don't know if you have solutions, but those two guys, at least keep them in the back of your mind. I don't think this is going to be a good week for Jordan Love, even though he's been better on the road. For the Broncos, it's a tough matchup for Bo Nix as well and RJ Harvey. I think if there's a Bronco you want, it's likely Cortland Sutton. He's just too good of a receiver. If someone's going to break open, you can beat the Packers through the air a little bit more than anything else. I think he's the player you want. But both defenses are definitely in play in this game. Both quarterbacks can have bad games and have a very low scoring affair. I mean, we saw last time Green Bay played a top tier defense was, I think, Cleveland, and they lost that game 13-10. They can get shut down on the offensive side of the ball. This game can legitimately go either way. I think Denver's getting a little disrespected on that line, but we don't pick against line. We pick heads up. Who do you got?
Packers offense right now, I think, is absolutely insane, Ryan. But Broncos win ugly, and the reason why the Pack are just slightly under field goal favors is that the Broncos are 6-0. Let me say that again: 6-0 at home this year. This team defends mile high with great fervor, and while the Packers have definitely stepped up their game and proved that they belong in the talk of maybe even a Final Four berth, I just think they get a wake up call here as that hard shelled Broncos defense does its job, and not even Micah Parsons, even though I know you mentioned him, is enough to counter this hard nosed defense and rough and tumble, ugly winning offense. I just think Perna gets to gloat come Monday in the Perna Grassi Bowl, and the Denver Broncos somehow do it again.
Yeah, I think Denver's going to win this game. I think their defense is going to be a big key to this. We mentioned Chicago with the Green Bay, Cleveland, Green Bay situation. It could be a look ahead game. The arch rival in a tight divisional matchup. Green Bay, Denver, Chicago, Denver, Chicago for Green Bay is not as kind. I think Denver's defense gets on top of them early and kind of strangles them throughout the game. I think it's going to be a very low scoring game. I don't think either one of these teams gets above 20. Might be a 2017, 2014, but I think it's going to be lower than that if I'm being completely honest, like a 17-13 style game. And in that case, I'm going to take the better defense, and I'm going to take the Denver Broncos to get a surprising win, according to Vegas. And I know there's going to be some people out there that go, oh, the Packers are the better team. That may or may not be true. And we'll find out. But we know in the NFL, the better team does not always win anyways.
And we go to LA, which some people love according to that song.
Another massive game between two very good teams. Detroit 8-5 on the outside of the playoffs, looking in. LA at home, on top of the world, number one seed in the NFC.
So what's the line?
Oh man, Rams by 3.5.
Close. You need 3 more because
Really?
they're at -6. Yep.
-6.
Solid touchdown.
All right.
Rest of the numbers -258 and over and under because they know there's going to be a lot of points between these two teams. 55.5. You got the 555 line.
Yeah, if you like points, this is the game for you. Maybe that's why that line is so big. They figure a lot of points means there's more opportunity for that spread to get bigger. Detroit is a desperate team. They need to keep winning to get in the playoffs. Obviously, they're right behind Chicago. They're right behind San Francisco. San Francisco's playing Tennessee. Chicago's playing Cleveland. They have to find a way to keep pace in this game. And if they lose it, their playoff aspirations drop considerably. For the Lions, even though the Rams have a good defense, you are absolutely not benching Jahmyr Gibbs. You are playing him no matter what. You're not benching Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, if you want to think about Jameson Williams as maybe not the best play, or Jared Goff is not the best play, or David Montgomery, they're all options. They all can be played. Might not be the best matchup for them, but we've also seen the Rams against the Panthers not shut down an offense that's playing competent football. So all three of those are definitely considerations that can be in a starting lineup. Tread with some caution. This is a tough defense, but I think the Lions offense is good enough to overcome that and put enough points up. For the Rams, you're going to play Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, and Devontae Adams. Kyren Williams and Blake Corum can both be started. I think no one's going to question the Kyren Williams start, but the Blake Corum managers, the people that picked him up and stashed him, or the Kyren managers that picked them both up now, it's interesting. You can play both of them. And I'm going to say Colby Parkinson's been on a little bit of a hot streak at the tight end position for the Rams. This is a great passing offense. It's not a great Detroit passing defense. So he might find some success in this game as well if you are very desperate. Maybe we're rolling with Zach Ertz for a while now that injuries come up. He could be an interesting, or you just didn't play Kyle Pitts and you need an option. He could be interesting. Big game for both teams. Rams with a win will be the number one seed going into week 16 no matter what. With a loss, depends on what happens around them. Detroit with a win may hop into the back end of the playoff picture. If not, they'll still be one game back, but they'll still be right there in it. What do you got?
Lions clawed their way through them boys last week. Rams just absolutely freaking decimated the Cards. Lion offense always dangerous. Sun God back helps them big time, but just the Rams at home, Lion. The Rams at home. They are the more complete team right now, and it's just a tough proposition to have them winning in LA right now. Rams have a 5-1 home record, and I think that goes to 6-1 after a hard-fought victory. Can't speak English; it's a difficult language. A hard-fought victory in Week 15. I'm picking the home team. I'm picking the Rams.
I'll say this. The lower scoring the game is, the more it favors the Rams, in my opinion. I can't rationalize why I'm picking Detroit very well, but it's a gut feeling that this team's going to show up. They're going to do what good teams in desperate situations do and rise to the occasion. We did see the Rams struggle against the Panthers. We have seen the Rams stub their toe a couple of times this season. So it's not unheard of that the Rams can have a down week against a very good team like Detroit. I think the offense does get rolling. That defense doesn't do a good job of shutting them down. And I think they find a way to win this game. And it might have to be a 41-35 type of game. But I think Detroit gets enough offense to get the job done and keep their playoff hopes in within their grasp at least. I think they play Chicago one of the last weeks of the season, so they can take that spot back from them pretty easily if they keep pace now. Next up, a big game for Carolina and the Buccaneers. Carolina at New Orleans. Carolina's got to be a touchdown favorite, 6.5 or so.
Carolina Panthers minus 2.5 favorites, Ryan.
Good respect for the Saints. The Saints have been a tough team, especially at home. We saw them upset the Buccaneers last week, so Tyler Shucks looked pretty good. Maybe Vegas is seeing the respect that the Saints have started to earn, and they don't fully trust Carolina. Not sure on that. What the rest of the numbers for us?
Minus 142. Not a lot of sexy points here. 40.5 with the over and under. Think under.
Saints also beat the Panthers a couple weeks back, 17-7. So maybe that's in the mind of the odds makers as well. For the Panthers, a little cloudier in the backfield. Rico Dowdle is still going to be the lead back, but Chuba Hubbard got a lot of work in their last game and was very good. Maybe it's one of those if Rico's a little slow and Chuba gets a hot hand, he takes over.
Where Rico Dowdle just absolutely dominated, but ever since Chuba Hubbard
he's still been really good.
It's been more of a timeshare, though.
Chuba got more work in the last game than he has in a while. Hopefully, if you've got Rico Dowdle, you don't have to play him this week because you have a bye. That would be fantastic because you see how they play the two. You want to see Rico take over, or you want to know if it's a whole timeshare. Either way, I do think you want Rico over Chuba, but both can be playable in this matchup. Both could be awful though at the same time. This is a low scoring game last time they played. Tedero McMillan at the wide receiver is the only other player in this matchup I think you must consider starting. Bryce Young's been hot and cold, and this is not the best defense in the NFL. They are overachieving, but maybe in a dart throw or a two quarterback or a DFS lineup, he could be a good dart throw here. For the Saints, no Alvin Kamara, so it's going to be Devin Neal in the backfield. I don't know if we see Kamara again. Honestly, I think this team might want to see what they got in Devin Neal
Going to
and keeping him on the
Cancun.
sideline. Yeah. I think he's playable. Carolina's got a defense that can be beaten. I think Olave, Deshaun Vele can be good options, and Juwan Johnson,
Olave
tight
get
end, is
more
always
than
there.
30 yards this week.
Probably. And then again, Tyler Shuck could be a DFS super flex kind of dart throw. He was great against the Bucs last week, and he's been, outside of his first start, he's been pretty good. The Saints are capable of the upset. They've already beat Carolina. They just beat Tampa. They can play above their weight class.
Won the Rams just recently.
The Saints didn't. The Carolina Panthers did. But the Saints have called some – both of these teams have pulled some upsets, but they've also looked really crappy at times. So I know the Panthers are favored. In New Orleans, this could be a very interesting matchup. Joel, who do you got?
Yeah, Panthers are motivated. I think that's definitely the main key here. They're motivated to keep pace with the Bucs and stay alive. And the possibility, not definite, because Bucs still control their destiny even after that craptacular game on Thursday. But possibility to take the South, that's going to be right in their minds, locked in. Don't blink, don't think, take the Panthers.
I'm taking the Saints. I am taking the Saints because I think that this team has been looking a lot better of late. They beat the Bucs. They took the Dolphins to the wire. They've already beaten Carolina once this season. I think Kellen Moore, this head coach, has come in. He's got things going the right direction. Their defense is playing a lot better. I think Devin Neal is actually better than Alvin Kamara. I think Tyler Shuck is a lot better than what they had in Spencer Rattler. This is a team that was terrible with Rattler, and they've been much, much more competitive with Tyler Shuck. And you can call me crazy if you want. I'm taking the home team where they've been better at home, and they've already beat this team once. I just think the Saints find a way to get it done. I know as a Bucs fan, you're happy with my pick more than yours. All right, moving on to
how can you guess the Seahawks line? Since I don't think the Colts are the favorites.
I think this one I heard it was bad. Indianapolis at Seattle. I think it was 13.5. I think I had heard that one. I had heard that one.
Minus 14.
14. It continues to go up. This is one where they made a big deal of it because you saw the line from the because they make these lines well in advance too. Like you can make games 2-3 weeks out if you really, really want to. So there was a line in place for this game 10, 12 days ago before Daniel Jones got hurt. The line has swung even more in the favor of the Seahawks since then.
Yeah, $10.50 money line. Ooh, yeah. Boy, that's college-esque. 42.5 with the over and under.
For the Colts, they are starting Phillip Rivers, so tread lightly with Tyler Warren.
Ramp on Rivers.
Yeah. Warren, Pittman, Pierce, all tread lightly. It is not great. And Jonathan Taylor, you got to think Seattle with a great defense is going to say,
can you imagine
that's the guy you got to take away.
Can you imagine the poor manager who has currently Colts and Jets stacks?
Not great. You can't bench Jonathan Taylor, but I think everybody else in this matchup, you can make a case. Like I'm considering Colby Parkinson, or we'll get to them in the Dallas game, Ferguson at tight end over Tyler Warren. And that's not something I've had to look at all season long, at least not since Tucker Kraft got hurt, because he was the only one that I would consider over Tyler Warren. But with Phillip Rivers, 44 years old, hasn't played in 5 years, what is he going to look like? How is he going to play? I don't have confidence in it. If I can bench the Colts outside of Jonathan Taylor, I'm doing it. I think that's the right way to take this game. For the Seahawks, JSN should have a field day. I think Ken Walker could be good. Charbonnet might get a garbage touchdown. Sam Darnold's going to be good in this game. The Colts defense is falling apart just like their offense is. It makes sense that this is a 14-point line. Does Seattle just dominate this game, or is it surprisingly close with Phil Rivers?
Yeah, just I didn't have a lot of real write up about this one. I just said Seahawks win by however much they want. Even Grandpa Rivers cannot help the Colts now.
Yeah, I think the vibes around the Colts, the fact that they brought in Philip Rivers as the savior, is not a great sign. I just think the vibes around Indianapolis are dark. They're not going to get any better. And I think Seattle wins this game by well more than the 14 points that they are right now favored by. All right, next up, Tennessee at San Francisco. The Titans got a big win last week, but going up in the weight class this week to face the 9-4 San Francisco 49ers. Niners got to be by 8.5.
Niners are you ready?
Oh, it's
12
bigger. It's
point
bigger. Yeah,
five.
not a surprise.
12.5, $9.50 money line, 44.5 for the over and under.
Yeah, the injury to Christian McCaffrey is a little concerning, but again, he does sound like he's good to go with that back injury. This is a good week for Brock Purdy in your fantasy lineups if you had Daniel Jones as your number one, or you have Jacoby Brissett as your number one, and that Houston defense is scaring you. I've got both of those situations at play on the same team, sadly enough. I'm playing Purdy in some places that I haven't played Purdy all season long. Christian McCaffrey, if he's in the lineup, he's playing for you. George Kittle is the same way. And then Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings, their consideration. Jennings is the better option of the two. But this Tennessee defense is really poor, so they both might have big games. You want the passing game to get the job done early because there's a good potential with this much of a spread that the second half is going to be Christian McCaffrey and a lot of Brian Robinson, to be fair. This could be a sneaky DFS, throw Brian Robinson and see if he gets 2 garbage time touchdowns in this game. For the Titans, no. You don't
DK,
play anybody. Pollard's
DK,
the only Pollard and DK you could consider, but this isn't Cleveland's rolled over and died defense and offense.
are you like Captain Shaw from Picard? No.
Yeah, it's pretty much a no. If you have to play Pollard or you have to play DK
That's
or
right.
something like that, you can be in some desperate situations with injuries and all that, or maybe one of those has to go in your lineup. There's no bye weeks. I don't see a lot of playoff teams needing to rely on Tony Pollard or Shamir DK. So I'm going to say if you have Titans on your roster, they stay on your bench this week, or they could be the last thing you do of relevance in fantasy football this season. Tennessee is a massive underdog. San Francisco's at home. I don't think there's a whole lot of analysis having to be done here. But Joe, do the Titans pull off another
Yeah.
crazy upset?
I had one sentence. Niners should roll here and get to double digits. I mean, you really don't need a lot of analysis. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't need the novel novella length thesis analysis on. Well, this is why I think the 49ers should win. They were going to win because the Titans are ass. End of thesis.
Yeah, I think if you have Christian McCaffrey, the risk here is that they score too much too early and it goes through the passing game, and he doesn't get a lot of work with that back injury and the score getting out of hand. San Francisco doesn't dominate this game. I can't see a world where Tennessee goes on the road and upsets a good team like San Francisco. I'm not believing it. Even if that happens, I'm probably still not going to believe it. I'm taking the Niners very easily. Next up, Minnesota at Dallas. We saw Minnesota bounce back against Washington last week with a 31-0 shutout, and Dallas came back down to earth, being drummed by Detroit.
They
I
got
gotta
claws.
think Dallas. I gotta think Dallas is at least a 5.5-point favorite.
You nailed it. Right
Hey,
on. Minus 270 money line and 47.5 for the over and under.
yeah, Dallas is one of the best offenses in football. Minnesota's got a good defense. I don't trust JJ McCarthy. I don't believe that's going to get any better. I think we saw an anomaly against the bad rollover and died defense last week, and he still didn't have 200 yards passing in that game, even though he had 3 touchdowns. For the Vikings, man, the Dallas run defense has been a lot better since they got Quinnen Williams, so I'd be hesitant on Aaron Jones and even more hesitant on Jordan Mason, who had a good week last week, but stepping up in competition. Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, and Justin Jefferson are tough to play. I'm not saying you can't play any of them, and honestly, it's brutal.
Cowboys defense.
Cowboys
Cowboys
defense, if
defense.
you can beat them, it's through the air, but you're still dealing with JJ McCarthy, who had his best game of his career last week, and Justin Jefferson still didn't have 20 yards receiving. I'm not saying you bench Justin Jefferson, but if you have to evaluate options and you've got DK Metcalf, Wandale Robinson, Jawan Jennings, Michael Wilson, or Justin Jefferson, there's a debate there. There's a discussion to be had, at least in your own mind, whether you roll with Justin Jefferson. Let's be clear. If you've got Justin Jefferson on a redraft lineup, you probably didn't make the playoffs. So maybe it's not an important decision, but I
So
think all three of those go to the
Justin
bench.
Jefferson or Shamira DK.
I would still go Jefferson there. There is a line. It's not that low. But when you have premier options still like Metcalf and you have Jalen Waddle, let's say, guys that have at least performed fairly consistently. Again, I had that Rashee Rice trade on the table. I rejected it because Rashee Rice has been too good. Even though he had a down week, he's been too good. It's hard to trust him.
You saw Rashee Rice in that one play where he just got absolutely wasted. I mean,
got up.
Boom.
Got up and kept going. So, for the Cowboys, though, Dak Prescott, Javonte Williams, you're going to be playing George Pickens, who should rebound. I want to check on Ferguson.
I saw
CeeDee
Lamb clear concussion.
CeeDee Lamb's going to play, which is good news for him. Let me see what we're looking at for Ferguson, because I haven't seen an update on him. Ferguson is questionable with a calf injury, and I don't see expected or not expected to play yet. So if you have
back anyway, that's going to definitely cut into some of his fantasy output, regardless.
Yeah, if you have Ferguson, you want to have another option. Maybe it's something in the Monday night game. Maybe it's just another option throughout the day, and you say, "I'm going to pivot and not worry about it."
Maybe like a Musgrave or something, even though that's going to be a bit of a.
I'm looking at. I picked up Theo Johnson in a league where I think I'm playing him over Ferguson, the Giants tight end. Dalton Schultz is a discussion point. Brenton Strange for the Jaguars is a discussion point with those guys. Colby Parkinson, a name I brought up a couple times. I think that's pretty good. Ferguson's playable if healthy, not ideal. There are better options, but anyways. Dallas, comfortable home favorite. Minnesota looked good last week. The defense is still good, but do we trust JJ McCarthy? Who gets the win?
Yeah, I just think the Vikings get a rude wake-up call here, Ryan, and hopefully Lamb doesn't have any more rude surprises or injuries, and he gets back to the Lamb that we know for fantasy as long as. But I'm not going up against them in any matchups. But yeah, but I got to pick the Cowboys here. I know their defense is definitely lacking, but they are far by the better offense. So I'm picking Tim Boys.
Yeah, I think this is a bounce back week for George Pickens. CeeDee Lamb with the concussion, how much actual practice he had. Plus, Minnesota's got a good defense. He's going to get the cornerback one for them against CeeDee Lamb most of the time. And I think Pickens, after all the noise of bad effort and this, that, and the other, it wasn't a discussion internally, but you still hear the noise. It still trickles in. I think he steps up this week. I think it's a big Dallas win. Hopefully, Minnesota can keep pace with this game because it is the Island Sunday night game. If not, it could be another one of those where everybody goes to bed and goes, "Oh, the Vikings suck," and it's over by halftime. Hopefully, that's not the case because we want to see entertaining football in a primetime game like that. My confidence is not high. And finally, we go to Monday Night Football. The Dolphins go to Pittsburgh to face the Steelers. The Steelers are 7-6 on top of the AFC North. The Dolphins on a hot streak, 4 in a row. They're now 6-7, still third in the AFCs, but still clinging to desperation hopes for the playoffs. Oh, God, the line on this one. I don't even know which team I think. I'm sure Pittsburgh is favored.
Correct.
By about 2.5.
Pretty close. -3.
Okay. So home field typically is worth about 3 points. And like I said, I probably should have assumed that. But Pittsburgh at home, they have a lot to play for. And again, they will know the result of the Baltimore game. If Baltimore wins, they'll know they have to win to stay ahead. If Cincinnati wins, they know they can win and go up by 2 games. For the Dolphins, what are the rest of the numbers? before we get into the
Minus
rest of it?
175 for the money line and over and under 42.5.
For the Dolphins, Devon Achane is going to play. He did leave the last game with a rib injury. They said at the time he could have come back if needed, but they were playing the Jets and the game was over. So why risk him in that situation? Likely to wear some kind of protection over that rib. Don't worry about it. He's going to play. He's going to be just fine. Jalen Waddle and Darren Waller are the two considerations in the passing game. You could get a little squirrely with like a Jalen Wright if they get the ground game rolling, but you got to remember he had a great game with Achane out against the Jets. The Steelers shouldn't roll over and die the same way that defense did in the second half. For the Steelers, DK Metcalf is definitely playable. I know I said I'm playing Wan'Dale Robinson over him. That is a league where I've got Nico Collins, who can only play two wide receivers, and I've got Achane, Bucky, and Hampton, Etienne, and Judkins at running back that are all above both of those guys.
Pretty nice running back room.
Oh yeah, that was a full dynasty rebuild. And Scatabo on IR. Yeah, it's a pretty good. I drafted Genty, traded Genty, and got Pickens and Achan and some picks. I threw in I think Jaden Higgins with it. Worked out really well for me. The team I traded with is the defending champ, also in the playoffs. We'll see how that goes. For the Steelers, though, Jalen Warren, I think, is a great play this week. I think going after the tight ends of Johnny Smith and Freiermuth are probably good options. Like I said, DK Metcalf is a good start. I don't think Rodgers is a good start here, but the Dolphins defense has been much better of late. So it's a little bit more sketchy. And no TJ Watt. Big deal. And I know it's not going to affect your skill players, but when you look at the Dolphins, you look at Tua, he's going to have more time to throw. HN should have a little less pressure when he gets the ball. That could be a big deal. And for who it concerns, the curse wheel did land on Pittsburgh, and it's been pretty good. Even if the Steelers win, the surgery for Watt's pretty cursed already. But Joel, big game for more of the Steelers and the Dolphins, but for both teams, who do you got?
Yeah, I know you have the power of the curse wheel, but I don't think the curse wheel can curse and overturn Mother Nature. Dolphins won the cold, but can they handle 20 degrees? I noticed you said that the HN isn't banged up enough to keep him out of the game, but you wonder, will there be any load management with Jalen Wright, maybe taking some snaps here and there? So just sort of something to keep in mind. But just a lot of questions week 15, but I think the Steelers are the better team here. Rodgers and DK looks much better, and you had all that combined throwing by Rodgers, just setting some records, actually pass the ball down the field. You're going, oh, so they can do that. Wow. And DK had himself a pretty sweet day, and I just think a better Steelers defense got the cold. Something you got to talk about that and the Dolphins, and everything just adds up. It may be an ugly Steelers win, but I think the Steelers get the dub for Monday Night Football.
The weather is definitely a factor you want to keep in mind. I think the game script between Achan and the other running backs, because Ollie Gordon could be in consideration as well if you're really desperate. But I think that game script mix is going to depend on how this game goes. If one team runs out ahead, I expect to see a lot more Jalen Wright than if it's a competitive game. I've got the Dolphins winning. I had this picked before the curse wheel too, so it's something I actually believe. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is capable of going out and dominating the game. The Dolphins defense has stepped up mightily in the last few weeks. And Pittsburgh coming
They
off
are,
that
isn't it?
heart and soul game against Baltimore, I think this has every marking of a letdown. Your emotional leader on the defensive side is going to miss this game after the surgery. The defense is probably going to have a little bit one of its worst games the last few weeks. And the Dolphins, even in the cold, they should be able to run the ball. I just think the Dolphins are honestly the better team right now. And they seem to want to fight and keep their head coach around. So, all right, we've been at this for an hour and a half. So, Joel, let's go quickly to final thoughts, and we'll wrap this quick.
All right, time to wrap this puppy up. My final thought is how about you had one of the most crazy field goals, I think, in all of week 14 last week that happened as time expired. It was in the Raiders game. It was meaningless, but affected the outcome so much that you had the owner of Barstool Sports, I won't specifically say what he said to have done to Pete Carroll in his clip, because that's just not a nice thing to wish on anybody. But it's crazy, basically, when you're calling for a coach to be off, I think is a politically correct way of saying what he said in that clip, and it was fueled obviously by a bet, obviously by losing a whole lot of money, but absolutely crazy because you have to wonder. Because I saw there's another video where, and this sounded like one of these titles that was AI generated, where it's Raiders are going to be uh, investigated for a felony, and I'm going, what kind of clickbait nonsense is this headline? But yeah, it's just absolutely kind of crazy when no time left. All of a sudden, let's kick a field goal, and it does nothing except affect the outcome for gambling. You have somebody who is a major media personality with a microphone a lot bigger than either of us or most people out there call for someone to be off. I don't want to say the actual word that he used because that's not usually the thing that one wants to talk about or discuss on social media, but absolutely crazy. I don't think anything really was done and that he wasn't disciplined for saying something like that, which is absolutely insane. Like, okay, I understand emotion being a Bucks fan. That game that sucked, what just happened. Yeah, I want Todd Bowles fired, but yeah, that's it. That's it. Somebody's
Yeah.
fired. Okay, that's it. I don't think you wish for anything more serious or criminal than that. Whether it's because your team loses a game, whether it's because you lose a bet, I just think that was absolutely insane, and that's my final thought. I don't know if you saw that story.
Yeah, I get the. It's one thing to say, hey, with all the sports gambling shenanigans going on in other sports, you see something like that. It's one thing to say, oh, you should investigate what happened there. Now, again, I think I said this on Wednesday. I believe what it was we're going to try and kick the field goal, have at least 1 second on the clock, try the onside kick and a Hail Mary. That didn't work out that way. But I do think that is the rationale behind the move. To say they should be investigated for point shaving or game, minute, whatever, that's fine. But you don't go and say this person needs to not exist anymore. That'll bring me right to my final thought, and it'll be a very simple one. If you don't like a player or a coach or a team because they screwed you in fantasy football or gambling, that's fine. You can be unhappy. Just shut the hell up about it and keep it to yourself or talk to your friends about it. Don't go on social media and say, you did this, you POS, mother effer, I hope you get hit by a bus kind of thing to the players, the coaches, the team, because you lost $50 on a parlay that shouldn't have been close to hitting because you got a little bit lucky and some poor guy missed a block or had a holding call and brought back the touchdown that hit your parlay. Shut the hell up. If you're that unable to control yourself with gambling or fantasy football, don't play. You're not welcome. If I know someone in my leagues is going after, I'm wearing a Brian Thomas Jr. jersey. He's been bad this year. Full disclosure. I've got him in some places, and it's been frustrating to watch him struggle. You know what's never crossed my mind? Hitting him up in his DMs and saying his mom should be fired, set on fire, because that's the kind of crap they get. He's been disappointing in the game where he runs and catches a ball. If I've lost money gambling on a player, which I don't do often
Yeah,
anyways,
that was like Ram Gano
too bad.
a while back talking about all the
Yep.
threats that he gets on social media. Absolutely insane.
Yeah. We've brought this up before. Just if you can't control yourself with fantasy football and you can't control yourself with gambling and you're going to rage
It's
and
a
threaten
game. It's supposed
players
to
and
be
coaches, you don't get to
fun.
do it anymore. If you're a commissioner and you've got a guy in your league doing this stuff, kick his ass out of your league. I can't stop anybody from gambling, but if you want to gamble and you lose $50 that you need to put food on the table, you shouldn't be gambling. You losing that is not the fault of the player. That is your fault for
Don't
gambling money you didn't have.
Don't gamble what you can't afford to lose.
I
Bottom
know we talk
fucking
about
line.
I know we talk about Perna and Grossi, the YouTubers. Perna is sponsored by Prize Picks, has been all year. He says every ad read, only play if you can handle it and you have the means to do it without going under. If you don't have money to feed your family, don't gamble. If you have enough money to bet, because
There's a reason why they
I'm sure you're
always
talking about
say
Portnoy. You're talking about
gamble.
Portnoy, right? With yours. If you have that level of money and you lose because somebody kicked a field goal in a strategy that you don't understand, shut up. You have the money to blow like that. That's on you. That's my final thought.
Yeah, because most of us probably aren't placing that much money on a bet.
Yeah, you gamble more money than most people make in a year. Shut up with your overprivileged crap. I get to bet on sports and talk about it on the radio, and then I'm going to have a fit when I lose. Shut up. If anything, the things you said should happen to Pete Carroll and any of those players, I'm fine with it if you do it first. That's my final thought. That's a little dark, but that's where we're going to end it. I am Flying Ryan Gilchrist along with.
Ample motor mouth, we've already gone off the rails, so we don't want to go
Yeah.
off anymore, right?
Yeah,
Hey.
we'll hopefully be a little shorter and a little more positive next week, at least at the end. And with that,